Stop what you are doing right now. I need you to understand what is about to happen to this country over the next 4 days, because what the models are now showing is not a typical February cold snap. This is not your average winter storm. What is developing across the central and eastern United States right now is one of the most complex, dangerous, and far-reaching winter weather outbreaks this country has seen in years. We are talking about a multi-wave event. Multiple systems, multiple threats, stacking on top of each other, and the timing could not be worse. 200 million Americans. That is nearly 2/3 of the entire population of the United States in the path of this thing. Stay with me, because in this video, I am going to break down every phase of this outbreak. Jurist, tell you exactly which cities are facing the most catastrophic conditions, walk you through our danger tier system so you know exactly where you stand. And I am going to show you something in the model data that shifted overnight that has completely changed the worst-case scenario for the eastern seaboard. Do not click away. Your city is in here, and what is coming may surprise you. Let me set the stage before we go city by city, because you need to understand the architecture of this event. This is not one storm. This is a pattern. And patterns like this are the ones that break records, overwhelm infrastructure, and catch people off guard, because they assume each individual piece is manageable. The mistake would be looking at any single storm in isolation. Here is what we are dealing with. We have 3 distinct phases unfolding between now and the end of the week. Phase 1 is already in motion. A surface low-pressure system is currently dragging a sharp cold front across the plains and into the Mississippi Valley. This is the opening act, and it is already producing significant snowfall from Kansas City up through Chicago and into the Great Lakes. But it is just getting started. Phase 2 arrives Wednesday into Thursday. This is the main event. A potent secondary low is organizing rapidly along the Gulf Coast and is going to ride that frontal boundary northeast. When it does, it is going to collide with a massive dome of Arctic air that has already plunged southward from Canada. That collision zone is where the most extreme conditions are going to develop: ice, heavy snow, damaging winds. And this system has the ingredients to go full-bomb cyclone as it races up the eastern seaboard Thursday into Friday. Phase 3 is the one I want you to pay the most attention to, because after these systems exit, what fills in behind them is not a brief break. It is a sustained Arctic reinforcement that is going to lock in dangerously cold air across a massive portion of the country for potentially 7 to 10 days. Wind chills dropping to 30, 40, even negative 45 degrees Fahrenheit in parts of the northern tier. That sustained cold, after 2 major storm systems have already stressed infrastructure, is where the real danger lives. Let me talk about the models for a moment, because this is where things got very interesting overnight. The GFS, which is our American long-range model, has been aggressive with this pattern for several days now. It was the first to pick up on the depth of this Arctic intrusion and the potential for explosive coastal cyclogenesis during Phase 2. But there was some uncertainty. The European model, which tends to handle large-scale pattern changes with a bit more precision, had been slightly more suppressed on the track of that coastal low. That disagreement was making forecasters cautious. As of the overnight model runs, that disagreement has largely resolved. The European model has shifted significantly northward and now aligns much more closely with the GFS on the track and intensity of the Phase 2 system. That is not good news for cities like Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. When these 2 models come into agreement on a solution like this, you pay attention. The HRRR, which is our high-resolution short-range model that looks out about 48 hours with exceptional detail, is now also coming into alignment. It is painting a very concerning picture for the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic over the next 2 days. And the national blend of models, which synthesizes output from multiple modeling systems to produce a consensus forecast, has quietly nudged snow totals upward by 4 to 8 inches across a wide swath of the Northeast, compared to where guidance was sitting 24 hours ago. That overnight model shift is something I am going to come back to in detail, because it changes the outlook dramatically for several major cities. Keep watching. Phase 1 is happening right now as you watch this video. This is not something on the horizon. This is ongoing. A sharp cold front has swept through the Central Plains and is currently pushing into the Middle Mississippi Valley and Ohio Valley. Behind that front, temperatures have already crashed 25 to 35 degrees in some locations over the past 24 hours. Ahead of it, there is still a brief window of relatively milder air, but that window is slamming shut fast. The snow from this opening system is already accumulating. Kansas City, Missouri has picked up between 4 and 6 inches of snow over the past 18 hours. Roads are coated, travel is difficult, and we are not done there. An additional 2 to 4 inches is possible before this first system winds down later today. Moving north into the Chicago metro area, this is where Phase 1 is delivering its most significant snowfall. The HRRR has been very consistent in showing a band of heavy snow pivoting across the northern suburbs, Lake County, and into southern Wisconsin. Chicago itself is looking at 6 to 10 inches by the time this system clears. But I want to be clear, that band of heaviest snowfall is not fixed. If it shifts even 30 miles to the south, the city core could end up closer to the 10 to 14 inch range. This is still a fluid situation, and if you are in the greater Chicago area, you need to be operating on the higher end of those totals until the models tighten up further. Milwaukee is already in a full-blown winter storm situation. 8 to 12 inches of snow expected before the end of the day. Wind gusts are pushing 35 to 40 miles per hour, creating near whiteout conditions on exposed roadways. Wisconsin State Patrol has already issued travel advisories across multiple counties. Moving east, Minneapolis and the Twin Cities picked up 5 to 8 inches overnight, and now the cold is the story. Temperatures are crashing. We are already seeing wind chills of negative 20 to negative 25 degrees Fahrenheit in the northern suburbs, and that is Phase 1 cold. Phase 3 cold is going to be significantly worse for this region. Now, here is something I want you to understand about the system before I move on. Phase 1 is the setup system. It is laying down a snowpack across a huge portion of the Midwest and Great Lakes. It is conditioning the ground, and it is ahead of a much more powerful and impactful Phase 2 system that is already organizing in the Gulf of Mexico. The energy is there, the moisture is there, and the Arctic air that is going to interact with that Gulf moisture is going to fuel one of the most dramatic storm intensifications we have seen this season. Let me keep moving through the regions. Detroit is seeing 4 to 7 inches of snow through today, with an additional burst of lake effect snow possible on the backside of this system as the cold air wraps around Lake Erie and Lake Huron. Detroit metro residents need to understand that the lake effect threat is going to ramp up significantly during Phase 2 and especially during Phase 3. We are going to talk about that in detail. Indianapolis is picking up 3 to 5 inches of snow with a glaze of ice on top in some of the southern suburbs. That ice component is important because what the models have been showing for the Phase 2 system is a dramatically enhanced ice threat for the Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley. And any pre-existing ice on the ground when Phase 2 arrives is going to compound the danger considerably. Columbus, Ohio. Pay close attention. You are sitting right on that critical freezing rain and sleet line for Phase 2. I am going to put you in our danger tier system later in this video because your situation is one of the most complex and potentially catastrophic in this entire event. St. Louis, Missouri. You came in just south of the heaviest snow from Phase 1. You picked up 2 to 4 inches, but now the focus turns completely to the ice threat. The freezing rain line for Phase 2 is going to come very close to your metro. Some models keep you in a rain to sleet to freezing rain scenario that could produce quarter-inch ice accumulations in your southern suburbs. Others push more of that wintry mix further north. I do not want to minimize this for you. An ice storm for St. Louis during Phase 2 is absolutely on the table. Before I move to Phase 2, I need to address the South because there is already a story developing there that is not getting enough attention. Memphis, Tennessee, Nashville, Huntsville, Alabama, Birmingham. These cities are watching this setup very carefully, and they should be, because the interaction zone between the Gulf moisture and the Canadian cold air during Phase 2 is going to produce a swath of significant winter weather across the Mid-South that does not happen very often. We are going to talk about what that means for cities that are simply not equipped for this kind of event. This is the phase that has meteorologists across the country watching their screens very closely. A surface low is organizing right now across the northern Gulf of Mexico. It is going to track northeast, pulling enormous amounts of Gulf moisture northward. At the same time, that massive dome of Arctic air I mentioned is entrenched from the northern plains all the way down through the Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley. When these two air masses collide, the result is going to be historic for many areas. Let me walk you through the timing. Wednesday morning, early hours. The precipitation shield associated with this system begins to lift north across the deep south. What starts as plain rain across Alabama and Georgia quickly transitions to sleet and freezing rain as you move north of Birmingham and Atlanta. And I do not use the word quickly loosely. In ice storm situations, that transition from rain to freezing rain can happen in under an hour. Roads that seemed merely wet become skating rinks almost instantly. This is where people get caught. By Wednesday afternoon, the freezing rain and sleet are spreading into Tennessee, Kentucky, and southern Ohio. The energy in the system is impressive. The low is deepening. The dynamics are favorable for both heavy precipitation rates and rapid intensification. Here is where I need to talk to you about ice accumulation, because this is the most underappreciated winter weather threat there is. Ice is not like snow. You can dig out of a foot of snow. You cannot simply dig out of half an inch of ice that is coating every power line, every tree branch, every road surface across a multi-state region. A quarter-inch of ice accumulation on power lines adds hundreds of pounds of weight across a span of just a few hundred feet. Half an inch of ice accumulation on mature trees will bring branches down. And when those branches come down on power lines, you lose power, not for a few hours, potentially for days. The current model consensus for Phase 2 shows a swath of significant ice accumulation extending from northern Arkansas and western Tennessee through western Kentucky, central and southern Indiana, central Ohio, and into western Pennsylvania and upstate New York. Within that swath, the highest ice accumulation totals are currently being modeled at 0.3 to half an inch across portions of central Kentucky, Tennessee, and the western Ohio Valley. Those numbers are significant. Those numbers are power outage numbers. Let me go city by city through the Phase 2 impact zone, Nashville, Tennessee. This is one of the cities I am most concerned about in this entire event. Nashville sits right in that critical zone where the warm Gulf moisture and the Arctic air are going to clash most violently. The models have been consistent in showing substantial ice accumulation for the Nashville metro. We are currently looking at 1/4 to 4/10 of an inch of freezing rain accumulation, with locally higher amounts possible in the higher terrain south and east of the city. Nashville's infrastructure is not designed for this. One significant ice storm can cripple this city for days, and I want to be direct with you. That is what we are potentially looking at. Memphis, Tennessee. You are going to be closer to the rain, sleet, freezing rain changeover line. The exact track of the surface low is going to be critical for your totals, but right now the models are showing 1/4 inch of ice accumulation possible, transitioning to 2 to 4 inches of sleet and snow on the backside of the system. Either way, Wednesday into Thursday is going to be an extremely difficult weather day for Memphis. Lexington, Kentucky, you are in a very dangerous position for this event, sitting squarely in the highest ice accumulation zone based on current model guidance. 3 to 4/10 of an inch of freezing rain is possible for your metro, combined with wind gusts of 30 to 40 miles per hour during the height of the storm. This is a scenario where widespread tree and power line damage becomes not just possible, but likely. I am going to put Lexington in Tier 1 of our danger tier system, and you will understand why. Louisville, Kentucky. just northwest of Lexington and in a slightly different position. You may end up with more of a sleet and snow mix compared to straight freezing rain, which would actually reduce your ice accumulation total somewhat. But do not celebrate yet. 6 to 9 inches of sleet is still a major event. Sleet is incredibly heavy and dense. It does not compact like snow. It accumulates fast, and it is extremely difficult to remove. Louisville, I am watching you very closely. Cincinnati, Ohio. This is another city I want to highlight specifically. You are right on that rain to ice to snow gradient. The models are showing a complex mix for your metro that could include periods of freezing rain, sleet, and heavy wet snow over a 24 to 36 hour period. Total precipitation, in all forms, could be substantial. Ice accumulation of 2 to 3/10 of an inch looks likely for at least part of your metro, with the snow totals on the backside potentially reaching 4 to 7 inches once the column fully colds off. Columbus, Ohio. Here's your story. You are sitting directly in the transition zone during the peak of Phase 2. This is honestly one of the most difficult forecast situations in this entire event. The difference of 50 miles in the storm track could mean the difference between a heavy ice storm and a 10 to 15 inch snowstorm for Columbus. Right now, the highest probability scenario involves a significant period of freezing rain, producing 3 to 4/10 of an inch of ice, followed by a transition to heavy snow as the system intensifies and the column fully colds out, adding another 6 to 10 inches of snow on top of that ice. That layered scenario is genuinely dangerous, and it is one reason Columbus is sitting in my Tier 1 danger category. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You are going to start with snow, transition to a mix, and end with heavy snow as the coastal system deepens and exits to the northeast. Total snow accumulations for Pittsburgh are looking significant. We are currently modeling 10 to 16 inches of snow for the Pittsburgh metro, with higher totals possible in the Laurel Highlands to the east. The timing puts the heaviest snowfall during the Wednesday night and Thursday morning commute windows. This is a major winter storm for Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is where I need to come back to that overnight model shift I mentioned at the top of the video, because the picture for Philadelphia has changed in the last 12 hours. The European model's northward shift with the coastal low track now brings much heavier snowfall into the Philadelphia metro than was being modeled yesterday. We are now looking at 12 to 18 inches of snow for the city and surrounding suburbs, with the heaviest totals in the northern and western suburbs, potentially reaching 18 to 22 inches. That is a significant upgrade. That is a major snowstorm for the fourth largest city in the United States. And it is happening Thursday. New York City. Let me take a breath here because this is important. The New York City Metro is now sitting in what I consider the absolute highest impact zone for the Phase 2 coastal system. As this low bombs out off the mid-Atlantic coast Thursday morning, it is going to intensify extremely rapidly. Wind gusts in excess of 50 miles per hour are possible along the immediate coastline and in exposed areas of Long Island, southern Connecticut, and coastal New Jersey. Snow totals for New York City currently being modeled at 14 to 20 inches, with some outlier solutions from the GFS pushing northern suburbs into the 22 to 26 inch range. I do not want to lead with the outlier numbers, but I do want you to understand the range of possibilities here. The core consensus is a major to historic snowstorm for the New York City Metro. Period. Boston, Massachusetts. You are going to get hit. Hard. The track of this coastal low is almost tailor-made to produce an intense nor'easter for New England. Snow totals for the Boston Metro are currently being modeled at 16 to 24 inches, with interior New England potentially seeing even higher totals as the storm wraps moisture northward. Wind gusts along the coast of 55 to 65 miles per hour are possible during the height of the storm Thursday afternoon into Thursday night. Coastal flooding is a secondary concern for the South Shore and Cape Cod. Boston has dealt with big storms before, but this one needs your full attention. Hartford, Connecticut. Providence, Rhode Island. Portland, Maine, Burlington, Vermont. All of you are in the primary impact zone. 18 to 28 inches of snow is possible across interior New England by the time this system winds down Friday morning. These are serious numbers. These are historic storm numbers for some of these areas. Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Annapolis. The I-95 corridor from the Beltway through Baltimore is going to be a treacherous place on Thursday. Right now, totals for D.C. are modeled at 10 to 16 inches, with the Beltway suburbs potentially seeing 14 to 20 inches, depending on exact storm track. The weight of the snow is going to be extreme given the moisture availability. This is wet, heavy snow, the kind that snaps tree branches and pulls down power lines. D.C. area residents, Thursday is not a day to be on the roads. I want to move through cities quickly now so you can find yours. Listen for your city. Here we go. Omaha, Nebraska. 4 to 7 inches of snow through Phase 1. Wind chills dropping to -25 by Wednesday night. Des Moines, Iowa. 5 to 8 inches from Phase 1. Temperatures crashing to -5 actual air temperature by Thursday. Rockford, Illinois. 8 to 13 inches of snow. Wind gusts to 40 miles per hour. Dangerous travel. Green Bay, Wisconsin, 10 to 15 inches. Lake effect enhancement on the backside. Wind chills to -30 by Friday. Madison, Wisconsin, 9 to 14 inches. Wind chills to -25 Thursday night. Cleveland, Ohio. Complex mix. Freezing rain transitioning to snow. 3 to 5 inches of snow, plus a glaze of ice. Lake effect threat on the backside significant. Toledo, Ohio. 5 to 8 inches of snow with ice mixing in. Wind chills to -20 by Thursday evening. Dayton, Ohio. In the mix zone. 4 to 7 inches of snow possible with a freezing rain component. Watch closely. Youngstown, Ohio. 8 to 14 inches of snow. Lake effect enhancement likely on the backside. Wind gusts 35 to 45 miles per hour. Erie, Pennsylvania. Lake effect machine activates during Phase 3. 18 to 30 inches of snow possible over a 48 to 72 hour period. This is an extreme lake effect threat. Buffalo, New York. You know what lake effect snow does to your city. Phase 2 brings 12 to 18 inches from the direct system. Then, lake effect kicks in during Phase 3 and totals could approach 30 to 40 inches in traditional snowbelt areas south of the city before it is all over. This is a major lake effect event. Syracuse, New York. 16 to 24 inches of snow from the direct system plus lake effect enhancement. You are in a serious situation. Albany, New York. 14 to 20 inches of snow. Wind chills dropping to -15 behind the system. Rochester, New York. 14 to 20 inches direct snowfall plus lake effect potential. Wind gusts 40 to 50 miles per hour during the storm. Scranton, Pennsylvania. 14 to 20 inches. This is a major snowstorm for your area. Allentown, Pennsylvania. 12 to 18 inches of snow. Wind chills to -10 Friday morning. Atlantic City, New Jersey. 10 to 16 inches plus coastal wind, gusts 50 to 60 miles per hour. Coastal flooding threat. Trenton, New Jersey. 12 to 18 inches of snow. Dangerous travel Thursday. Richmond, Virginia. 6 to 12 inches of snow with a possible freezing rain mix early. This is a significant event for Richmond. Norfolk, Virginia. 4 to 8 inches with coastal wind gusts significant. Possible flooding at high tide. Raleigh, North Carolina. 2 to 5 inches of snow and sleet. This is enough to cripple Raleigh. Do not underestimate this. Charlotte, North Carolina. 1 to 3 inches of snow and ice possible. Not the worst totals on paper, but the ice component and the city's inability to handle winter weather makes this very dangerous. Greensboro, North Carolina. 2 to 5 inches with a freezing rain mix. Significant impact for roads and infrastructure. Knoxville, Tennessee. Heavy ice threat. 1/4 to 3/8 inch freezing rain accumulation possible. This is a Tier 1 concern. Chattanooga, Tennessee. Freezing rain likely. 1/4 inch of ice or more possible. Roads will be catastrophic. Atlanta, Georgia, right on the southern edge of the precipitation shield. 1 to 2 inches of sleet and freezing rain possible. Atlanta in an ice storm is something that cannot be overstated in terms of the disruption it causes. Birmingham, Alabama. 1/4 inch of ice possible. Sleet accumulation of 1 to 3 inches. Significant travel disruption. Huntsville, Alabama. Similar to Birmingham, this area is in the ice and sleet zone. Little Rock, Arkansas. 1 to 3 inches of sleet and freezing rain. Significant impact. St. Louis, Missouri. 1/4 inch of ice possible in southern suburbs, transitioning to 3 to 5 inches of sleet and snow. Springfield, Missouri. 4 to 7 inches of snow with ice mixing in on the front end. Kansas City, Missouri. Already impacted by Phase 1. Phase 2 brings additional snow and then the brutal cold of Phase 3. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Watching closely. If the storm track holds, Oklahoma City could see 3 to 6 inches of snow and sleet. Ice accumulation possible. Dallas, Texas. I need to talk about Dallas, because every time a setup like this develops, people ask about Dallas. Right now, the models show the precipitation shield coming close, but the most significant concern for Dallas is actually the cold. Temperatures in the upper teens to low 20s are likely. Wind chills in the single digits or below zero are possible. Even without significant ice or snow, that level of cold in a city that experienced the catastrophic 2021 winter storm is a serious infrastructure concern. Dallas, I am watching you and I am going to put you in Tier 3 of the danger system. Houston, Texas. Cold rain and the possibility of temperatures dipping near or just below freezing during the coldest hours Wednesday night into Thursday. Minimal ice accumulation risk, but the temperature drop is notable. Denver, Colorado. Already dealt with cold and wind. Phase 3 reinforcement brings another round of below zero actual temperatures and wind chills reaching -30 to -40. Let me now run you through the official danger tier system for this event. Pay close attention because where your city lands on this tier is important information for how you need to prepare. Tier 1 is the highest danger category. These are cities and regions facing a combination of extreme winter precipitation, prolonged dangerous cold, high power outage risk, and conditions that are genuinely life-threatening for anyone who is unprepared or caught outside. Tier 1 cities and regions include the following: Lexington, Kentucky, Nashville, Tennessee, Columbus, Ohio, Knoxville, Tennessee, Western Pennsylvania, including Pittsburgh, Central New York State, the New York City Metro, the Boston Metro, and all of interior New England. The I-95 corridor from Philadelphia through Providence. The Great Lakes snow belts, including Erie, Buffalo, and the eastern shores of Lake Superior, Michigan, Huron, and Ontario during the Phase 3 lake effect period. Why are these areas Tier 1? Because they are not facing a single threat. They are facing layered threats. Ice followed by snow, snow followed by extreme cold combined with power outages. That combination is where this event becomes genuinely dangerous and potentially fatal for vulnerable individuals. Tier 2 is the infrastructure stress tier. These are cities that will face significant winter weather impacts and elevated strain on power grids, transportation networks, and emergency services, but where the risk of long-term power outages and life-threatening cold is somewhat lower. Tier 2 cities include Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, St. Louis, Louisville, Richmond, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Hartford, and Charlotte. Tier 2 does not mean safe. It means the risk profile is different. In Tier 2 areas, the primary dangers are travel, power outages of shorter duration, pipe freezing, and the cold itself for those who lose heat. Take this tier very seriously. Tier 3 is the southern cities tier. These are cities in the deep south in Texas where winter weather preparedness infrastructure is limited, where the population is less experienced with extreme cold, and where even modest ice accumulation or temperature drops can produce disproportionate impact. Tier 3 cities include Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, Atlanta, Birmingham, Huntsville, Memphis, Nashville's southern suburbs, Charlotte, Raleigh, and Houston. I want to be direct about Tier 3. The total snow and ice numbers may be lower, but the danger per inch of ice, per degree of temperature drop, is higher in these cities than anywhere else on this list, because the infrastructure is not built for it. The roads are not pre-treated to the same degree. The population is not accustomed to it. And we saw in 2021 what happens to Texas when a system like this strikes. We cannot repeat that. Now I need to talk about what happens after Phase 2 exits, because this is the part of the forecast that I think is most underappreciated right now, and it is the part that has the potential to turn a bad week into a genuinely catastrophic stretch for millions of people. After the coastal system moves off to the northeast Friday morning, the flow across the country does not moderate. That is the key. In a normal pattern, after a major storm system exits the east coast, you often get a brief period of recovery. Temperatures moderate, skies clear, people dig out. That is not what is happening here. What is happening instead is a sustained reinforcement of Arctic air across the central and eastern United States that is going to persist for a week to 10 days. The models are remarkably consistent on this. Both the GFS and the European model show blocking high pressure anchored over Canada and Greenland that is going to funnel repeated shots of polar air southward. What does that mean in practical terms? Wind chills in Minneapolis and the northern plains reaching -40 to -50 degrees Fahrenheit by the weekend. These are extreme values. These are values that cause frostbite on exposed skin in under 10 minutes. Chicago wind chills dropping to -30 to -35 by Saturday. Detroit and Cleveland, wind chills reaching -25 to -30. And here is the critical part. After a major ice storm and heavy snowstorm, power outages are going to be widespread across the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, and Northeast. Some of those outages, depending on the extent of ice and tree damage, could take days to fully restore. And the people sitting in those dark, cold homes are then going to face some of the bitterest cold of the entire season moving in behind the storms. This is where Phase 3 becomes life-threatening. There is also the lake effect component of Phase 3 that I need to address. When this deep Arctic air flows across the relatively warmer waters of the Great Lakes, the result is explosive lake effect snow machine activity. Erie will be ground zero. Buffalo and its southern suburbs are directly in the crosshairs. The Tug Hill Plateau east of Lake Ontario is going to see extreme lake effect totals. If the lake effect bands set up and persist for 48 to 72 hours, which the pattern supports, localized snowfall totals in these areas could reach extraordinary values that dwarf what falls during Phase 2. This is an extreme threat for these communities, and I want them to be paying close attention over the next 48 to 72 hours as the lake effect bands become more well-defined. And I said I would come back to the pattern reload. Let me address it briefly. The long-range models, looking out beyond day 10, are beginning to hint at yet another wave of energy that could consolidate into another significant storm system in the 10 to 14-day window. I want to be careful here because day 10 to 14 forecasts carry enormous uncertainty. But when the overall pattern is this amplified and this energetic, the chance of additional significant events is elevated. I will have more on that as the models come into better agreement. Make sure your notifications are on so you do not miss that update. I always do a preparation block in these major outbreak videos because I genuinely believe this information saves lives. Not because it makes for good content, because it does. Water, Fill your bathtubs. Fill large containers. If power goes out in extreme cold, water pipes can freeze and break. Having stored water means you have drinking water and sanitation capability while repairs are made. Generators. If you have a generator, do not wait until the storm hits to test it. Run it now. Make sure it starts. Make sure you have fuel. And I cannot say this clearly enough. Generators must be run outside, not in your garage, not near an open window. Carbon monoxide poisoning kills people every single major winter storm event in this country. Every time. It is preventable. Please do not make this mistake. Pipes. If you are in a Tier 1 or Tier 2 city and you have pipes that run along exterior walls or in unheated spaces, let your faucets drip. Open cabinet doors under sinks on exterior walls to allow heated interior air to circulate. Even a small flow of water through a pipe dramatically reduces the risk of freezing. Your vehicle. Do not wait until you are stuck to realize your emergency kit is empty. Keep a blanket, a phone charger, jumper cables, a small shovel, kitty litter or sand for traction, and a flashlight in your vehicle before this storm arrives. If you get stuck or stranded, these items matter. Food and medications. If you rely on prescription medications, make sure you have enough supply to get through 5 to 7 days without being able to leave your home. If you need to pick up a prescription, do it today. Do not wait until Wednesday morning. Your neighbors. This is the one I feel most strongly about. Check on elderly neighbors. Check on people who live alone. A quick phone call or a knock on the door before the storm hits so that you know they are prepared can save someone's life during a sustained power outage and extreme cold event like Phase 3 of this outbreak. Communities that look out for each other survive these events better than communities that do not. It is that simple. Finally, stay informed. Do not rely on a single source of forecast information during a rapidly evolving event like this. Follow your local National Weather Service office. Have a battery-operated or hand-crank weather radio. Make sure your wireless emergency alerts are enabled on your phone. And keep checking back here because I will be updating you as new model runs come in and as the situation evolves. Let me give you the big picture view before I wrap up this video. What we are experiencing right now is not an anomaly. It is the result of a dramatic shift in the large-scale atmospheric pattern that began several weeks ago. The polar vortex, which is that large area of cold air that typically sits anchored over the Arctic in a stable configuration, has been significantly disrupted. When the polar vortex is displaced and weakened, it allows large lobes of extreme Arctic cold to spill southward into the continental United States. That is exactly what is happening. The disruption of the polar vortex is not a brief event. These disruptions, once they occur, tend to influence the downstream pattern for weeks. The blocking high pressure over Greenland and Canada that is responsible for funneling this Arctic air southward is showing no signs of breaking down in the 10 to 14 day time frame. Both the GFS and the European Model Ensemble suites strongly suggest that the overall pattern remains amplified and active well into the middle of March. What that means practically is this. The pattern is loaded. There is more energy available, there is more cold air available, and the ingredients for additional significant winter weather events are going to remain in place for an extended period. The storm I told you about in the 10 to 14 day window is going to need watching. I am not going to make specific claims about its track or intensity at this range because the uncertainty is genuinely too high to give you numbers you can trust. But the pattern supports it, and I will be watching every model run between now and then. For the next 96 hours, here's your bottom line. If you are in the Midwest and Great Lakes, you are in a multi-phase winter weather event that includes snow from Phase 1, a complex mix of ice and snow from Phase 2, and then brutal sustained Arctic cold and lake effect snow from Phase 3. If you are in the Ohio Valley and Mid-South, your primary threat is the ice storm component of Phase 2. This is your most important weather event of the season. Ice is more dangerous than snow. It takes down power, it coats roads, It makes every surface treacherous. Prepare accordingly. If you are in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, the coastal system during Phase 2 is going to produce a major to potentially historic snowstorm for your region. The overnight model shift has increased totals significantly. Thursday is the day, and the cold that follows is going to be intense and sustained. If you are in the Deep South and Texas, your risks are lower on the snow and ice scale, but do not underestimate the cold. Wind chills below zero in Dallas, temperatures in the teens in Atlanta. For communities not built for this, those numbers matter. This event is going to touch virtually every American in some way, whether it is directly in the impact zone or dealing with supply chain disruptions, flight cancellations, or economic ripple effects. 200 million people in the path of something like this is not an exaggeration. It is the reality of the setup we are looking at. I want to thank you for watching all the way through this video. I know it was a long one, and I know there is a lot of information to take in. But I believe you came here because you want to understand what is coming, not just hear a headline. And that is exactly what I try to deliver every single time. If this video gave you information that you think someone you know needs to hear, please share it right now. Not tomorrow, right now. Because the window to prepare is closing. Every hour between now and Wednesday morning is an hour you can use to be ready. Share this with your family. Share it with your neighbors. Share it with anyone who is in the path of this event. If you are not already subscribed to this channel, please hit that subscribe button. We are going to have multiple update videos over the next 48 to 72 hours as this situation evolves and as the models refine the forecast. Every update matters. Every model shift matters. And you do not want to miss critical information when things change fast. Hit the like button if this video was helpful. It takes 1 second, and it genuinely helps get this forecast information in front of more people who need it. Turn on your notifications, because when a model shift happens at 2 in the morning, and I need to get information out about a significant upgrade to this event, you need to know about it the moment it drops. Check the community tab over the next 24 hours. I post quick updates there between full videos when the forecast is changing rapidly. Stay safe out there. Take this seriously. Prepare now. And I will see you in the next update video. This is not a storm to watch from your couch. This is a storm to prepare for today. Stay warm. Stay safe. I will be back with updates soon.